Hi, everyone. I'm going to discuss technology integration in the classroom um, using information from two articles. The first one being Technology Impacts on Teaching Third Grade Mathematics Using iPads. And the second one being Integrating Technology into the Classroom, eight keys to success. So I would say that both articles really did have similar findings. Um, the technology impacts using iPads article did have quantitative research attached to it, which explained basically that it's important to have balance. And what they found through the quantitative research was that when you include technology in your classroom, as well as have a balance between some older style of textbook teaching, that your students will benefit, and they will then have higher assessment scores. What both articles also found was that the teacher is key to using technology. And it came down to many things, such as funding. So both articles agreed that funding was an issue. And in the iPad article, what they found was that teachers who didn't have a lot of expertise in using technology found that if they were to take courses, it was on their own time, and that they weren't reimbursed for spending their own money to learn about the technology that can be used in their classroom, and that they weren't reimbursed with their time either. Planning is an issue with teachers, the platforms that we use, and the software that we use. And both articles did agree that basically teachers are the stakeholders, and that if teachers aren't well supported or well educated in the area, then in turn that's going to have a negative effect on students, because they won't be receiving technology in a well planned out, thought out way that's going to support growth in their learning. So I wanted to talk briefly on the fact that both kind of touched on software and the platforms. I've been teaching in my district for about 5 to 6 years now. 6 years. And in that time, we have bounced around from different software platforms. When I first started, we used something called SharePoint, and I know a lot of teachers are still using SharePoint, but there's not a lot of teachers using it. It had just kind of came to fruition when I started 5 years ago. There was incentives to doing it, so I did it. It was very frustrating because the kinks weren't worked out, and a lot of teachers weren't finding that parents were even using the website, and they were finding that all of their hard work was to no avail. So since then, we've gone through a couple of different things, and in our district, we are now using Office 365 and trying to get all the teachers on board with that. We do not allow platforms that go through the United States. So that's why we're using Microsoft, because it actually will stay rooted in Canada. The documentation, such as the student-created email addresses, won't wire through the States first. So I totally understand and can relate to these findings. It's so frustrating when districts are jumping from software to software to software, different platforms. We're expected to learn all about them. And, if you're someone who's not super tech savvy, it can be really hard and really daunting. So it's not fair to teachers for districts to continue to jump around. Districts need to find a platform and stick with it and help their teachers become educated in that technology. It's the district's job to do so. It shouldn't be on the backs of teachers. Luckily, in my district, they do offer certain times during Pro D days for you to come and learn about Office 365, and I was lucky enough to spend an afternoon learning about it. For many teachers, an afternoon isn't enough time. to learn and explore and feel confident using it. For me, just kind of dipping my toes in is enough. I did have some faults along the way that made when I was in the middle of teaching a lesson and using this piece of technology, it wasn't working, or kids were affecting the documents and I didn't know what the heck was going on. So, it is a learning process and it can be frustrating, but we have to find something and stick with it. What else here? So as I mentioned in my last YouTube video, I enjoyed giving kids the challenge of, finding, let's say, division games online and giving them the chance to just hyper focus on the internet and troll the internet for all the fun games that involve division, while falling under the umbrella of you cannot have to subscribe to it, you shouldn't have to log in to play the game, and it can't cost any money. And students loved it. And then we added those games through the links. We added those links to our Teams page, our Office 365 Teams page. And then it became a database where students could play these games during class time or at home, and they could easily reach these links through our Teams page. I think that's kind of everything. Actually, one other thing. In creating these videos, I think I would actually have students try using YouTube to create their own videos to do a project. And I've never given that as an option, although I think it is a really cool way for students to share their knowledge. Kids would love it. And I think, since having to do it in this class, that I'm going to use it as an avenue for demonstrating their learning in some future projects. So I'm looking forward to using more technology in my classroom and giving kids an opportunity to, I keep saying, to use more technology to demonstrate their learning while also having fun with it and being able to do it at home, not all at school.